The European Union has made the resources available to us all to advance the agenda of forests. It is important that we remember that all of this has to do with eradicating poverty, to bring in equity and equality into small nations, and particularly since we know that the poorest of the poor globally are women, we must be mindful of the role of women in all of this, and we must be very mindful of the stewardship that our indigenous brothers and sisters throughout the globe have applied to give us some of these resources that we currently have. And I think if we bear this in mind as we proceed over the next 2 days, that we are here about equality, equity, access, and technology and financial resource sharing, we will be guided to, in a sense, both deconstruct and construct what needs to be done in the spirit as we meet.
The process of the EU FLEGT negotiation has been ongoing for some time, and it plays an integral part in terms of our governance mechanism for the natural resource sector. It's even captured in the joint concept note with the Kingdom of Norway, and is one of the deliverables that we need to conclude in terms of advancing our work. And also to say that in the 2017 work program of the Ministry of Natural Resources and the sector as a whole, we see the conclusion of this negotiation as a very critical element towards the holistic development of the sector. And it's for this, in this regard, the Minister has tasked the Chair and the Commissioner with doing whatever it takes so to facilitate the conclusion of this, because it's also going to aid us in terms of our competitive positioning in the sector, but more importantly, it's going to allow us to address the issues of those small and what people may want to consider medium-scale operators along the entire value chain of the forestry sector. This process will also impact on our Amerindian brothers and sisters and those persons that we call the forest inhabitants of a forest.
It is my pleasure to give a few remarks on behalf of the Guyana Forestry Commission and the National Technical Working Group, which is the group that is charged with coordinating the formulation of the Guyana EU FLEGT VPA. Over 85% of Guyana's landmass is covered with lush tropical forests, forests that are an integral component of the Guyana Shield and the Amazon Basin. These forests are not only an untapped reservoir of rich biodiversity, they support the livelihoods of our indigenous peoples and other Guyanese employed in the forestry, mining, and other sectors. Indisputable evidence exists that a centuries-old utilization of our forests has been done responsibly. This is demonstrated by our annual rates of deforestation and forest degradation, which in 2014 was a mere 0.065%. Guyana thus re-emphasizes its firm support for the EU FLEGT Action Plan, and the imminent finalization of the Guyana EU FLEGT VPA represents therefore a step in the right direction. It is factual that Guyana's forestry sector is already governed by a robust system of forest legality and sustainable forestry management guidelines. Independent audits have confirmed that these are being implemented satisfactorily by our stakeholders. Additionally, Guyana possibly has the only national level log tagging and log tracking system in the world. This has provided a credible platform for our current robust chain of custody system. Our national system was independently evaluated and assessed as providing a very strong foundation for the VPA with the EU. However, there were some identified gaps that need to be examined and addressed in a collaborative and transparent manner. We therefore welcomed the establishment of a local FLEGT Facilitation Support Office by the Department for International Development. This is providing much needed resources to support activities elaborated in a joint roadmap. It also allows for a better appreciation of critical follow-up activities that needed to be planned for now and later on in the implementation stage. Importantly, Guyana sees the FLEGT process as a tool not only to access the EU markets, but one that will also improve our governance within the sector and across sectors. As an example, the FLEGT process is already proving to be a vehicle for strengthening interagency collaboration, where a number of agencies are now working together in an improved synergistic way. This will enhance Guyana's already strong forest legality and sustainable forest management systems, including the tracking of timber from stump to market. As Guyana approaches the end of the negotiation phase of this BPA process, it is recognized that events such as this sharing of experiences seminar are necessary to better understand the dynamics of the implementation phase.
The Government of Guyana places great importance, as does the UK, on the requirement for robust and effective management and regulation of forest resources to ensure that this invaluable resource is sustained and can continue to contribute to the prevention of further degradation of the Earth's fragile ecosystems, whilst providing legal resource and income to the people of Guyana. FLEGT, an EU project with global outreach, is very much an important part of Guyana's efforts in this respect. The FLEGT VPA process will improve the approach to forest governance in Guyana, strengthen sustainable forest management and promote trade in legal timber on both the domestic and export markets. It has great potential for reduced emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, otherwise known as RED. It will enhance broad multi-stakeholder dialogue for policy and legal reforms in the Guyana forestry sector, thereby creating space for different stakeholder groups and building the capacity of the marginalised to engage in the process of forest governance. It will strengthen institutional capacity for management and regulation of forest resources. It will also promote a cross-sectorial approach to managing natural resources and land use in Guyana. And it will also promote poverty reduction through enhanced forest governance and improved revenue streams to forest regulatory institutions and forest communities, particularly indigenous communities. The UK government is committed to the FLEGT VPA process, particularly in assisting Guyana realise its reform aspirations that underpin the agreement with the EU. It is perhaps time for me to reveal the extent of that support in Guyana. In monetary terms, the UK will have contributed up to £2.4 million sterling during the course of the project in Guyana, and will continue to provide expert advice, guidance and information until the planned end of the VPA process in 2017. The UK remains fully committed to the VPA process and to the implementation of the EU Timber Regulation, otherwise known as EUTR, which is framed by UK regulation. And last but not least, in helping Guyana realise, as previously mentioned, its reform aspirations that underpin the agreement with the EU. The UK continues to be committed to helping producer countries reinforce their forest governance and encouraging responsible trade, and the FLEGT approach is at the heart of such commitments.
Sustainable development was one of the guiding principles. Why the EU, already 13 years ago, so more precisely in May 2003, has developed an EU action plan on forest law enforcement, governance and trade, which basically is what we call now the FLEGT action plan. This was developed in order to address the growing problem of illegal logging and the related trade. I think it's important to highlight that, the action plan aims particularly in addressing three very important issues. Firstly, to support governance reform in order to address those challenges. Secondly, to contribute to capacity building in timber producing countries. And thirdly, to help to work on reducing the trade in illegal harvested timber, not only in the EU, but also ultimately in the major consumer markets. FLEGT efforts to improve forest governance and law enforcement include, firstly, of course, a very deep political dialogue, which we are doing. I think previous speakers already have highlighted that as well, the engagement of all stakeholders, because we can only be successful if everybody who is concerned by this issue takes part in the discussions and really embraces the result of these discussions.